Hi, this is Illini Drive on WPGU 107.1. We're here to tell you that we were wrong about Illinois basketball. More on that in a couple minutes, though, as apparently the Illini are on the tournament bubble. Things have gotten interesting after they've won a few games in a row. Big game, Michigan State. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Anyway, I'm Kevin McCarthy alongside Peter Bailey-Wells and Jeff Omer, producer man Will Gerard, the son of our great former mayor. God bless his soul. And behind a computer, taking photos of me with a cell phone right now, is Ryan Wilson. You can follow us on Twitter at Illini Drive. Interact with us there. That'd be fun. You could also call us, 217-337-1071. I'm sure some of you are pretty excited about what happened with the Illini over the weekend. I'm sure you're also excited that we were wrong. So you can call in, I suppose, and berate me, say bad things about me. The only topics that are off limits are my girlfriend and my mother. Other than that, come at me. Is that mic off? How about you, Jeff? Can you talk?
No, I'm off too.
Can anyone else talk?
Let's make sure we're not muted.
You want to turn me on?
You want to turn on Ryan? Har. It's a sexual joke for your Monday night. Hope there's no young ears listening. Well, right now I'm the only microphone that's working, so I'm going to keep talking. Quick rundown on today's show. First, we'll talk about the relatively breaking news, I don't know if you can call it breaking news, that they're going to make student tickets free for Wednesday night's game against Michigan State. We'll talk a little bit about the atmosphere, about how much that game means for this Illini basketball team and their tournament hopes. Plus, we'll talk about what it means for John Gross as he's looking to keep his job. A week ago, his chances at keeping that job looked a lot slimmer than they do now. Suddenly, things are on the brighter side, I would say. Mike, still pressing microphone, still not working. Peter, you want to come in here?
Yeah, I'll sneak onto your mic, Kevin, at least for the moment. Yeah, I mean, if you were to replay our conversation from a week ago, the Illini had just gotten a win over Iowa on the road, but had lost to Penn State at home. The lost to Penn State at home the week prior, and frankly, things were not looking up. And now the Illini have won 3 in a row. They're 17-12, and they're back on the bubble. Really went from being in a point where we thought they were totally out to now being bubble bound again.
Yeah, really, like it's almost a 360 in some way. Yeah, we're still not hearing you, Peter, but after losing a game about 2 weeks ago, let's say, at home to Penn State, pretty much getting blown out like they did at Penn State, we really wrote off Illinois' season and didn't think they had any shot of even considering an NCAA tournament bid. But now, after winning a big game on the road at Iowa, coming back, beating Northwestern at home, then going to Nebraska yesterday, picking up another big road victory, I can't believe that, now that conversation has come back to us and we have to talk about them being on the bubble. It sounds pretty crazy to me to know that Illinois has really had this much of an up and down season, but still at the end of the day, they have a shot to make the tourney.
And not only did they beat Nebraska, but they did so convincingly, which was surprising for a lot of people. They weren't huge underdogs in that one. I think just 4 or 5 points, but they come in and they win a big game. Hey, that microphone's on. Pass that to Peter. Yeah, woohoo! I'm still getting a small ring. If you can work on that, producer man.
So this one doesn't?
No, mic 5, yeah.
But mic 5 does?
Does that work? Just kidding. It doesn't. It's.
We're hearing you slap it, but we're not hearing it.
Slap it with your lips.
Oh God.
I'm just saying.
I don't know if that. Can you?
No.
No, it's not working. All right, let's just share this one. We're sorry, people, for the technical difficulties.
You're used to it, I'm sure, by this point anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. So back to the Nebraska game. Well, we'll just talk about these last 3 wins in a row, just kind of on the whole, generally. Biggest keys, biggest differences you've noticed in this team these last few games versus the inconsistency we've seen throughout the year?
I think the most obvious thing that you could take away from the win yesterday at Nebraska is just the shooting for the Illini. I believe they hit 13 threes yesterday, and I think
ridiculous shooting.
Exactly.
And 50%, which helps.
Of course. It seemed like every time they were hitting a three, you were thinking it was going to go in, and I would imagine that's the most threes they've made in a game all season long. And if you're making 13 threes in a game, chances are you're going to win that game. You should win that game, at least if you play decent defense. And I was expecting Illinois to come out shooting well from the three-point line, though, because Nebraska is actually pretty poor when it comes to defensive three-point percentage for their opponents, but that's the one thing that really stood out to me, and more specifically, just the shot of Tracy Abrams. It slowly seems like he could be getting back on track right when Illinois needs him to. He hit 3 threes yesterday, I believe, and had a couple against Northwestern the game before. He's going to be a big piece for this team moving forward, especially in a game against Michigan State. And being at home for that game, they're going to want that 3 ball to be just as on pace as it was against Nebraska to keep that offense flowing and make the inside game more likely as well if the outside game's working.
And I think if you look at this team's, what did I say before the show? This team's confidence is based on its confidence. There's something weird about this team's, I don't know if it's an ability or an inability, but to rally once they have momentum and not able to rally when they don't. I mean, they're so dependent on sort of the streaky nature of their shooting and of their defense, which has improved so drastically since Tijon Lucas started stopping point guards, before they entered the paint. It's just really interesting to see how far this team has come. I think in the time that we've, gone from thinking John Gross was out the door to now maybe he's coming back in the house. A little bit, at least.
Yeah, I think that, you mentioned this earlier, Peter. The odds of them making the tournament right now, you'd still say they're probably kind of in that first 4 out, like on the outside of the bubble looking in. So maybe their odds there are like 40-60, but suddenly John Gross's chances at keeping his job look like maybe swung to 60-40. As we continue to work on these microphone issues. For you, Peter, though, now a lot of focus goes on to Wednesday's game. If they win that one, their tournament hopes go up drastically. Biggest key for you for them to take home a W on Wednesday? Well, they'll be home, but...
So one of the biggest things, this free student ticket initiative, they'd like a packed house. I think everybody involved would like a packed house. If Orange Crush is hopping, if the State Farm Center is hopping... If it's loud, that's going to make a difference. A team on senior night, in a full arena like that is gonna be amped. And if that team can't get up to win, well, they're not going to make the tournament. They're not good enough to make the tournament. But I think they probably are good enough to win that game. And I think it's going to come down to defense more than anything because, as we've seen, their defense buoys the offense. When the defense plays well, the offense then sort of rallies and plays well off its back. And getting stops, getting transition points. We've seen more dunks, more layups in transition than we saw at all. At the far more than we ever saw at the beginning of Big Ten play when Tracy and Jalen Tate were still playing the point, more so than Tijon was. And you can include Kipper Nichols in there as a guy who loves to run the break and who loves to get in passing lanes and disrupt inbounds. And it's just more fun to watch basketball when the team has competitive fire on defense. And I think that they know that, and it's translating to their offense. And I think the fans know that, and that's why I bet we'll see State Farm Center packed on Wednesday.
Yeah, I agree with Peter. I think just in general, this Illinois team needs to keep this energy that they had this past weekend, even the last time they were at home against Nebraska. They need to keep that energy and that momentum into this week's game on Wednesday against Michigan State. And I think you can expect there to be a decent amount of fans at this game, just considering where the team is at. I would think that any true Illini fan would be excited for a game like this with a lot of implications behind it if Illinois is able to come out on top. But I think it does start on the defensive end in terms of setting the tone from an energy standpoint. But then I think if Illinois really wants to get those fans in, it's going to take a big slam or a hot shooting night. And you're going to want that team to come out fast as well and not get behind early. Sort of like Northwestern's game last week. Illinois and Northwestern were neck and neck the entire first half, which meant that the fans were excited to come the second half because they knew what to expect. And really, it just made the environment a lot more intense from start to finish. And I think that's what we could expect from Michigan State fans or not Michigan State fans, but rather Illinois fans on Wednesday night. It should be close to being a sold-out house. I'm not sure it will be sold out, but I would expect it to be pretty packed.
Thoughts on their realistic chances in this game? Is this a game we think they're going to win? At least that they've got a shot at? What do we think?
I think Illinois does have a really good shot at winning this game. I think Michigan State is coming off a huge win this past weekend against Wisconsin, but just in watching that game, one of the reasons why Michigan State hung around and played Wisconsin so tough, at least in my opinion, was that home court. There was energy in the fans, and I think it fed right through the players in that team, which makes me think that Illinois fans could have the same effect on their team on Wednesday. I don't think it's going to be a blowout by any means, like we've kind of seen Illinois beat their last two opponents by 16. I don't think Illinois is going to get away with that easy of a victory over Michigan State. But it's going to be a close one throughout, and I do expect Illinois to compete. At the end of the day, though, I don't know who's going to end up on top quite yet, but it is one where I can see Illinois at least not getting blown out of the gate right away.
Yeah, I think there's a coin flip game. I think it really could go either way. I think Tom Izzo and Michigan State are a good team. They're a young team, but they're getting better and better and better. Probably going to make the tournament, have some good wins, coming off a strong win over Wisconsin. Illinois is hot, though, and they got a lot of hungry guys. They need this tournament win. You know, if Malcolm Hill does nothing else in his NCAA career, he wants to go that. But, he could care less about breaking into the top 3 or 4 for points. None of that. This is for him about making the tournament. And I think that means that this game is a toss-up. We'll see how it goes.
And speaking of Malcolm possibly breaking into the top 3 points, that could be something that gets this crowd going as well. If Malcolm's having a big scoring night, I don't think he's far behind Deion Thomas, I believe, for that third spot. If he's able to jump...
Deion Thomas is first. Brian Cook is third.
Brian Cook, I apologize.
No, D. Brown, sorry.
Yeah, Brian
Hill
Cook.
is fifth. Hill is fifth. Cook is fourth.
Hill's fourth now, I thought.
Did he pass him?
Well,
check it.
You're right.
Hill
No, D. Brown
fifth,
is third.
Cook is fourth, and Brown is third.
Either way, I think I would imagine if Hill passes that record or is close to passing that record, the fans are going to know about it. It's probably going to go up on the video board at some point, let's say, depending on how the game is going. So I would say following Malcolm Hill throughout the game would also be kind of important in terms of where the fans will be at the same time.
And he'll have a big defensive assignment as well. We'll talk about that later in the show. Quickly, before we go to a break, or not too quickly, but a couple minutes on momentum. We'll start with you, Peter. Obviously, this team is hot right now. We were talking about earlier, this might be the only time in the year where you actually could say that convincingly. Like, yes, Illinois is doing things right now. They're on a roll. And they, like, I hate saying this because I feel like it's the kiss of death, but I have a decent amount of confidence in them right now to win this game. Like you said, it could even be a coin flip. How much does that matter?
Your confidence in them?
Just momentum, and if that's a thing.
I mean, I think with this team it matters more so than others. I think, I don't know. And with this game, I don't think it would matter a lot if they were going to play, say, at Wisconsin, at the Kohl Center, or if they were going to play at a place. Even if they were going to play in East Lansing, I don't think it would matter.
That'd be scary.
But I think with senior night and with a win streak and with the implications of what's going on here and what this win means and what this win and maybe the win after it means and, John Gross's job and the whole 9 yards, I think it does. Yeah, I think it does. I don't think it does all the time. I don't think momentum is always really a big thing. But I think in this game, if momentum ever matters, we'll see it in this game.
And I really think this team is finding itself these past couple weeks as well. I noticed that John Gross is mainly using a 7-man rotation with Kipper and Finke coming off the bench. He's not even turning toward a guy like Jalen Tate anymore or Mike Thorne. And I think that's another key aspect of this team when you talk about momentum moving forward. I think these guys are getting a lot more comfortable with each other, especially as Tijon gets more playing time. He's making a lot of big plays, not only offensively but defensively. So I would think momentum does have a lot to do with it, just from the standpoint of this team being confident that they can work together and figure things out offensively and defensively together. Once again, though, I think Michigan State at the same time has a lot of momentum to work off of as well, and they have just as much of a reason to win this game in Champaign, to upset all of our fans and, let's say, move themselves into a better tournament position. So I think both teams really do have a lot of momentum to where it might not matter in this game, and I could almost see it being one thing where both teams come in a little bit too excited and we have a low-scoring first half, and then teams really come out to play in the second half.
It should be a good one on Wednesday. We're going to talk more about it when we get back, plus a lot of bigger questions to consider. So the first will be, what does this mean for John Gross's job? We'll also talk about their tournament chances. What do they have to do to get there? Plus a little bit more talk about the matchups and you know, how Illinois or what Illinois needs to do to win this game. So as a reminder, you're listening to Illini Drive on WPGU 107.1, brought to you by the Illinois Fighting Illini. For tickets and information on the Illini, visit fightingillini.com or call 1-866-ILLINI-1. Once again, fightingillini.com or call 1-866-ILLINI-1. So a lot of big talk to come. You're not going to want to miss it, so don't go anywhere. You're listening to Illini Drive on WPGU 107.1.
This is Clark Kellogg of CBS Sports, and you are listening to the Illini Drive. Enjoy.
Welcome back, Illini Drive on WPGU 107.1. My name's Kevin McCarthy alongside Peter Bailey-Wells and Jeff Omer talking Illini basketball right now. You know, what a difference a week makes. If you listened to this show just a week ago, you heard me and I guess the rest of us rant about this Illinois basketball team after they had just had a tough loss against Penn State over that past weekend. Now the story is completely different. Suddenly they're a bubble team. Some people think if they beat Michigan State, suddenly they're on the out or the inside looking out. It's then theirs to blow. You know, if they were to lose against Rutgers or something like that. There's a lot of different scenarios, but that's what we're going to talk about right now is scenarios where Illinois would get in, scenarios where they would get out. Peter, first, what's the easiest path? Not sure that there's ever an easy path for this Illinois basketball team, but what is realistically the easiest path to getting into the tournament?
Illinois' easiest path probably is whatever. Okay, first premise is that whatever route to the tournament they take, with the exception of winning the Big Ten tournament, Illinois' route to the NCAA tournament includes winning against Michigan State on Wednesday at State Farm Center and winning at Rutgers at the RAC on Saturday.
So you're saying those games are necessary?
Those are must-wins, in my opinion. For Illinois to make the tournament. Now, other possible scenarios include, but are not limited to, Illinois losing in, say, the Big Ten tournament semis. So I think the most likely Illinois to the tournament situation is Illinois and Northwestern both continue to win. Thus maintaining Illinois' high RPI wins over Northwestern, right? Then they're not facing the Wildcats, which is sort of the big Northwestern and Michigan sort of being the other two, or maybe Michigan State sort of the other Big Ten bubble teams, but Northwestern primarily and Illinois the two bubble teams. As long as they're not facing each other in the 8-9 matchup in the Big Ten tournament, Illinois wins two to close the regular season, wins a game or two. Two would help them, I think, clinch a spot. I think one would put them firmly on the bubble. So I think the easiest, you win these two if you're Illinois, and then you go ahead and play, a dangerous team like Penn State or a dangerous Ohio State or Indiana and get a win there in the Big Ten tournament. I think that's the most realistic. I don't think any path is easy, to be fair. The most guaranteed path, of course, is you win the Big Ten tournament, you get the auto bid. That's not likely, though.
Yeah, I agree with that. This isn't working, so let me get that mic.
We're trying, folks. We're trying.
I think Peter's right, though. I think the easiest path is Illinois just winning this one at home on Wednesday, taking Rutgers on the road and beating them, and then let's say picking up a win or two in the Big Ten tournament. If I'm an Illinois fan, I'd be a little nervous if the team lost to Michigan State because then you'd have to expect a lot more from them come the Big Ten tournament. I'd say they'd take 2 games rather than just winning 1 game. And I'd say just as a whole, win this game at home, defend their own home court, and it shouldn't be too hard to beat Rutgers on the road, just carrying that momentum along the way. But with that being said, if they do win out and if a team like Northwestern doesn't win out, we could see Northwestern even in the first round of the Big Ten tournament, and that could be a real toss-up game because both teams could be playing for their right to get into the NCAA tournament. Illinois obviously beating Northwestern twice this season. I don't know if they could pull off another win for the 3rd time. In-state rivals, whose team, whose state, whatever, I don't know. It would really be a toss-up, but Illinois can certainly sign their name on the NCAA tournament line if they just win out the rest of this season in the regular season here, and then I'd say just take one in the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah, so we all agree at this point that really this Michigan State game on Wednesday night is about as close to a must-win as you can have. Of course, it's not a complete must-win. Like Peter mentioned, you could go really deep in the tournament. You could even win the Big Ten tournament, and that gives you the auto bid. But this game against Michigan State matters a lot. So I want to spend a few more minutes talking about this game on Wednesday night because there is a ton of significance. We talked about momentum earlier. We talked a little bit about how much pressure is on Malcolm Hill in this game, but I want to talk a little bit more about that. There's obviously the scoring load that's always on him. He also is going to have a bit of a bigger defensive assignment this Wednesday. Talk about that.
I mean, the biggest thing for Hill is this mic going bad too?
Oh my gosh, and then there was one.
Christmas cooking. Wow. Okay, that's better.
Gosh. It was about to be an Agatha Christie novel in here.
Yeah, we were all going to go, the mics were all going to go dead, and we're going to have you, our listeners, determine who cut the cord.
Nice.
All right. No, we're back. Well, look, Hill has got... Hill's responsibilities on defense have been pretty significant this year. Michigan State's is kind of like young, I don't know, vibrant might be the wrong word, but
it's not like a usual Michigan State team.
No, and in years past when Hill would be, guarding, say, a Denzel Valentine, very much an equivalent of him, the kind of guy who also does all the. I'm out there, Jeff. Let me hit the mic. Goodness gracious. This is just this. Is it up? It's back. Jeez. Where he would have been guarding a guy like a Denzel Valentine, an equivalent sort of Big Ten stud, do-it-all kind of player. The question is, this year instead he gets a guy like Miles Bridges, who's like a super athletic, 6'7" guard. And the kind of guy who can jump out of the gym and can score. And he's going to be really focused on defense, not just matchup stuff. Because when you guard somebody like Valentine or when you guard somebody like Hill who can rebound and pass and score, you got to contain them in a lot of ways. He just has to stop Bridges from scoring. Rebounding too, but Bridges is a 6'7" guy. Could end up on a Kipper Nichols. That's going to be an athleticism matchup to watch. It'll be Miles Bridges, Kipper Nichols in the moment. So Hill is not covering Bridges.
So, you have a thought on that, Jeff?
Well, I just think in general, the one thing that I've been most impressed with from Illinois throughout this 3-game winning streak has been their defense, and I think their defense is the main reason why they've won so many games, just the fact that they've been able to limit their opponent's abilities to, let's say, score on the fast break or hit the open threes. Illinois has really been playing tight defensively, keeping their hands up and really pressuring the other team, and it starts with Tijan just putting pressure on the point guard as he's carrying the ball up. So defense is going to be key for this team, and I think that's where they're going to find their momentum throughout this game. It's just going to come from defensive stops, and I think it's important to look at a guy like Kipper Nichols when it comes to the talk about defense, because he's someone who's doing the little things, whether it's getting a strip steal or a block. He's going to be someone who could make a big play against Miles Bridges, let's say, in this game to really shut down the Michigan State offense and get that Illini energy flowing throughout the State Farm Center.
So with Malcolm Hill having to have this, the burden that is Miles Bridges on the defensive side of the ball on his shoulders, obviously secondary scoring is something we've talked about all year. Peter, for you, who on offense is going to have to show up, or maybe it's a few players on offense besides Malcolm, if they want to get a W in this game?
I think the obvious is Maverick Morgan. When Mav gets going, the team gets going. We saw that against Nebraska. He scored a lot early. They went to the post trap. Mav kicks it out, and the shooters get open shots. I mean, that was pretty basic stuff for them against Nebraska. And in part why they shot so well is because they took a lot of open shots. Guys like Finke, guys like Coleman Lands, even Tracy, you leave them open, and they were hitting stuff. And that was because Mav was playing smart basketball out of the post trap. Now, if Mav is at 10 points, you might still need somebody else in double digits. I think this is a really big Tijan game, just in terms of how bright are the lights for you, young man. Kind of are you up to the task? Is this? Are you ready? Because if we're gonna make it, we're gonna make it with you. And if if you're not there, we're not going there in terms of the NCAA tournament. So Tijon, maybe Tracy as a swan song kind of thing. Who knows? Double-digit points against Nebraska for Tracy Abrams, the first time since their first Big Ten win of the season against Ohio State. He had not had double-digit points in nearly 2 months before scoring in double digits against Nebraska. So, maybe Tracy Abrams broken a little bit of that ice that he seemed to be skating on, or what have you during the middle of Big Ten play, and is broken out. But I think any of those three guys. I mean, it could come from like a Coleman Lands as well. But I think the way things are going, it's most important for Illinois to get a big game out of either Mav or Tijon Lucas, I think, because, just being able to hit threes is not, I don't think it's going to win them this game. I'm just not convinced of that.
I don't think Illinois can depend on at least hitting as many threes as they did against Nebraska in this game. But I do think you're right, Peter, when you say that it's got to start with Maverick Morgan, or at least, let's say, LaRon Black down low. I like what Illinois has been doing, whether it's against Northwestern or against Nebraska, in the early portions of the game. Their offense, it starts a little slow-paced, and they go down low and really just feed the post. And then, you'll see a double team there, some type of trap, and kick it outside for the three. And that's really what I look to get this offense going again. I don't think Illinois needs to get 13 threes in this game, but I would seriously think that they could get maybe between 7 and 10. And their jump shooters are going to have to be shooting well after, let's say, Maverick Morgan is able to pick up some early baskets. I think that would be the key for this team. Maverick Morgan's got to get going early, and LaRon's also got to get going early from that mid-range to set up the deep three ball.
As much pressure is on Malcolm Hill in this game, I don't think there's any more pressure than what is on John Gross and his job during this game. And, because if they make a tournament this year, then, of course, I would believe without a doubt that he would retain his job. So there's going to be a lot of pressure, a lot of talk about John Gross in this one. Before we talk about what this game means for his job implications, let's just talk about what he needs to do, both X's and O's, then maybe in the locker room, in practice in these couple of days. What does Gross need to do to get a W in this one?
Just don't get cute. If this team goes down by 10 points and he puts in Jalen Tate, I swear I'm going to lose my mind over on press row. Don't get cute. Play the guys who've been winning you the last 3 games, who've been winning you 4 of the last 5. God, don't get dumb. And I think that he deserves credit where credit is due for sticking with these guys that have won him games and not resorting to the old stuff. He finally has come around on Tijon, finally came around on Kipper Nichols. Finally, has been coaching Mav to get out of the post trap, things like that. So, I think if he continues doing what he's been doing, he's fine. Just don't get cute. Don't get dumb. And Gross has coached his team to big wins. It's not like he's never won a big game. So just, I think he just needs to, be an energy guy. Gross is good at that. So hype your team up. Get that building going. Okay, when your team's getting on a rally, look at the crowd and yell at them, right? And pound the scorer's table and hit the deck. Go for it. That. John Gross does that. That's great. I think that's 50% of his job is to get the energy level so high because you're not saving it. There's nothing to save it for. This is the moment. So energy and just get your rotations right. Don't be messing with the lineup in ways that don't reflect how you've won the games that got you here.
I totally agree. I think John Gross needs to trust the freshmen / younger players on this team, whether it's Tijon or Kipper or JCL and Michael Finke. I would not like to see him go towards someone like Jalen Tate off the bench anymore or Michael Thorne. I just don't think those players are in the same area right now as those who we've seen on the court really clicking. And yeah, I don't get cute. I think Illinois just needs to stick to the game plan that they've had in terms of getting those young guys going, having Tijon really start with the point guard and put pressure on that defense. And then from there, just depend on those who have been showing up, like a Maverick Morgan and Malcolm Hill, the seniors, to hold it down and carry this team.
We move the conversation now to John Gross's job. A week ago, I was so sure that he was going to get fired.
It wasn't just you, though. To be fair.
Oh yeah, no, I'm just going to speak for myself, and I'm one of those people where I'm not going to turn around a week later and jump back on the bandwagon because I'm not on it. If it were up to me, if I were Josh Whitman, and if you're curious, I'm not. I have about 100 less pounds of muscle on me and 1,000 more hairs on my head. I am not Josh Whitman, but if I were, Gross would be gone. Anyway, but now just the national conversation or even then the local conversation about Gross and his job has completely changed. And now, rather than hope being nearly gone, there's plenty of it, especially if he wins this game. So for you guys, this is the question I'll pose. It's a yes or no question first. I hope that you answer it as such. And then you can elaborate. Does John Gross need to beat Michigan State and go on to get a tournament bid to keep his job? Yes or no?
I say no at this point, honestly.
I don't think he has to get a tournament bid. I think how he goes about not getting a tournament bid would matter. Like if they lost to Michigan, like if they lost out. Okay, so right now I think that Gross's chance of keeping his job are higher than they are of him losing it.
Yes.
I mean, that's based on not a lot more than anybody else has seen, but in terms of the way this team feels, the way that Whitman publicly interacts with him, surely there are 1,000 interactions that we don't see. But based on the information available, I think Gross is more likely than not to keep his job as it stands right now if the season ended today, right? Now, if they lose to Michigan State, they lose to Rutgers and are like a 12 seed in the Big Ten tournament and lose on the first day, well, I think he's less likely to keep his job in that case. So I guess the answer to your question is no. Now, I see that Gross, I think the most likely path for this team, more than just, I mean, kind of based on gut a little bit, based on history, based on how this team is playing, is that they're going to have 19 or 20 wins and Gross is good. I think if they get to 19 wins, especially if they beat Michigan State in what I would propose as his biggest game ever as coach. I mean, this is the game this is Gross's biggest must-win game as head coach. So I think more likely than not, but I could see it going either way. But your original question, no, he does not have to make the tournament. If he utterly flops, if the team completely falls apart, there's a chance that he could not make the tournament and lose his job. But I think there's possibility of him not making the tournament and keeping his job.
Yeah, I think the way his team has responded in these past 3 games has saved his job a little bit and at least cooled off his seat, let's say, because if the team had kept things going like they had against their loss against Penn State at home, I don't think there was any chance that John Gross was going to stick around. But because his team has fought hard and pulled out some pretty meaningful victories, both 2 on the road and then 1 at home against Northwestern, I really do think that it's going to take a big collapse in these final 2 games of the regular season and then 1 more game in the Big Ten tournament to really get John Gross close to being fired or even fired at that point. Like Peter said, this is a very big game for him and his team and his possible career at Illinois against Michigan State on Wednesday. I think if he wins this game, he's riding high, and that team's going to have a lot of momentum going into the Big Ten tournament to where there's no way we see John Gross leaving after this year. But if they lose, the team could just fall off the tracks, lose on the road against Rutgers, drop the first one in the Big Ten tournament, and then you never know. You're right back to the same story of can Illinois win with John Gross? And, no one really knows that answer at that point.
Still a lot of basketball left to be played. A lot of things could be happening. At the very least, it's going to be interesting. We're going to head to a quick break, but when we get back, plenty more Illini basketball talk to come. Big game on Wednesday. We'll talk more about it. Plus, we have tickets to give away, so we will do that before the end of the hour. Stay tuned. You're listening to Illini Drive on WPGU 107.1.
Hey, this is Susanna Collins with Comcast Sportsnet, and you're listening to the Illini Drive.
Welcome back. You are listening to Illini Drive on WPGU 107.1, brought to you by the Illinois Fighting Illini. For tickets and information on the Illini, visit fightingillini.com or call 1-866-ILLINI1. Once again, on your computer or cellular device or anything that connects you to the internet, I suppose a tablet, fightingillini.com, or on your cellular phone, rotary dial, anything that can call someone, 1-866-ILLINI1.
maybe like a nice Alexa or Siri, you know, your talk instruction friend, whatever we call those, helper person. I don't know.
Computer-generated voice.
Computer voice, yeah.
I would love to be the new Siri. Kevy, the new Siri, Kevi, Kevy. I think that'd be tight. I feel like I've got a good voice for it, you know? It's not.
Do you have the ears for it, though? Could you actually hear what I'm saying?
I think I do. I don't know. I wish I have great vision. That has nothing to do with it, though.
We don't even know how you look.
Exactly. My hearing, I've never really had it tested.
What the heck is that?
I don't know. I think my hearing's pretty good. No guarantees, though. But I think I've got the voice. Anyway, we're going to talk Big Ten tournament scenarios because as much as this game matters against Michigan State, Illinois' draw for that first round of the Big Ten tournament could matter a lot. The difference between playing a Michigan or an Ohio State or Iowa or Northwestern. I mean, there's so many scenarios. So we're going to do our best to talk you through these. They're confusing. There's tons of scenarios. It matters on so many variables, but we've got a few ideas of what we think could happen between now and the tournament and what that would mean for a draw for Illinois. So let's just start out with, what do we think are the one or two most likely scenarios?
I think it's pretty likely that Illinois is going to get a spot, let's say, between 6 and 8 in the Big Ten.
Yeah, more likely.
Closer to
More
8,
likely 7, 8, 9. 6 would be really
it would be a
6
stretch,
would be
but
tough.
They could jump above Northwestern, let's say.
They'd have to have both Northwestern and Michigan State lose out, right? So we have 5 teams in the Big Ten right now with double-digit wins. Purdue, Wisconsin, Maryland, Minnesota, Michigan State all have double-digit wins in conference. Purdue, Wisconsin have essentially locked up. Then we have those 3 at 10 and 6. Then we have Northwestern and Michigan State at 9 and 7. This is where things get interesting as far as Illinois is concerned. Okay. The Illini get the 6th seed, meaning Northwestern loses out, Michigan loses out, Iowa loses 1 of 2, Illinois wins both.
But I guess that goes against what we say, though, because Michigan plays Northwestern.
Well, and we'll see. That's not possible. So Illinois isn't going to get that 6th spot. So that's where we see the 7 through 10 come in. Illinois is most likely to play one of those teams. Northwestern, Michigan, Iowa, Illinois. That's 6, 7, 8, and 9 right now. Okay, Indiana, Ohio State, Penn State, Nebraska, all at 6 and 10. That's 10 through 13. One of those teams will be in that 10 spot. In all likelihood, Illinois is probably playing in the 8-9 game.
I'm thinking 8-9 as well.
Which means that's a must-win. Probably, must-win. Who knows? At this point, what do I know? But Illinois wins that game, then they have a number 1 seed matchup. A more winnable, I would say, number 1 seed matchup than in years past.
Definitely.
Okay, Purdue is a number 1 seed in the Big Ten tournament. Not unbeatable. Not your Indianas of yore or your Michigans of yore. You know, some of these top Big Ten seeds we've seen in years past that weren't really going to lose until the final. I mean, I think Purdue's a beatable team. Or not an unbeatable team. I think is a better way to put it. Because Illinois certainly would be an underdog against Purdue. Lost to them by, 23 points? 23 points?
They got their butt kicked.
In early January. So, but basically look for Illinois in that 7, 8, 9, 10 area. More likely, right now they're sitting at 9. And that would mean an 8-9 matchup with Iowa for a then chance to play Purdue. That would be if the season ended today. That's a really interesting situation for them to be in. Now, the other sort of more likely matchup is that they end up in the 7-10 matchup. They're more likely to play, I would say Michigan has the better schedule of Michigan and Northwestern heading out the rest of the season. So you're more likely to see Michigan at the 7, Northwestern at the 8, or Iowa at the 8 or 9, and Illinois at the 10. I mean, it's going to be tough to see where things shake out, but it's a really, really interesting bunch. But that middle section of the Big Ten is really clogged up. And after Illinois, you got 4 teams all at 6 and 10. One of those teams makes a run, and you could see them in sort of those 7, 8, 9 10 middle games.
And if you're trying to keep Illinois riding this wave, it would kind of scare me initially to see them in that 8 or 9 game, just knowing that they're going to have the number 1 seed right afterward. If this team wants to make the tournament, I would imagine they want to keep this momentum going, keep this positivity around the team. If they win that 8-9 game, they could easily just get smacked around facing that 1 seed and then, have no momentum if they even do get an NCAA tournament bid.
So in all likelihood, you're looking at a game against Michigan, Northwestern, or Iowa. Illinois has beaten all 3 of those teams this year. 2 of them they've beaten both times, correct?
I don't think they beat Michigan.
They did beat Michigan.
Yeah, they beat Michigan
that's right, at home.
at
Sorry.
State Farm Center while we were on break.